welcome to Beyond the Sum of Our Parts. We're on episode 6, and this week we are diving into death and mental health.
Yay!
All right. So we're going to open up space and ground and set intention to this conversation that we are about to have. It's going to be really deep, probably emotional. So let's all just take one cleansing breath right now together. And now we're going to set our intentions. Jordan, what is your intention for this conversation?
My intention word is understanding.
Okay. Tashina, what is your intention word for this conversation?
My word is truth.
Truth. Okay. Mike, what's your intention word?
Fun.
Fun. Okay. Ebony, what is your intention word?
Crazy.
Oh, I like it. Jen, what is your intention word?
Oh, I need to change mine now. I'm not sure. Open.
Open. I love it. My intention word is going to be dynamic. And Erica, what is your intention word?
Fearless.
Fearless.
Oh, I love that.
All right, so got our intention words out, and I guess I'll start the topic. We were talking about it amongst the 7 of us. We wanted to dive deep into talking about death and how we, in our culture, don't really like to talk about it until someone passed away, and we're all fighting or scrambling over money or trying to figure out how to take care of this person, or don't really have that uncomfortable conversation until it's after the fact, or even processing what that does to us, whether it's grieving, whether it's emotional connection, whether it's letting go of that person, because sometimes we all kind of grieve differently. Some of us stand still and don't grieve. Some just stand tall and don't even accept the emotions. Some people just fall apart and can't live life without that person and just understanding exactly what's going on. So we wanted to lean in and get deep and have this uncomfortable conversation today, because we do not discuss death in our culture until someone dies, and then we're still left with questions: where did this person go? What happened? How does this relate to me? And what am I going to do without this person? Or how is this connected to me in any way, shape, or form? It's a kind of awkward conversation for me, because I am a medium, and so I do connect with loved ones on the other side. And I say that it's awkward for me because I'm starting to have a more wider understanding of what happens when we cross over, and where our loved ones go when they cross over. And it's really difficult sometimes because I don't feel like I can have this conversation with family members, because I'm not right kind of accepted as a medium amongst some of my family members. Um, and I know it's uncomfortable sometimes for my wife, but she accepts it. And who you guys know, Erica's my wife, but she accepts it. But still, she has questions like everybody else. She's still, not afraid, but we talk about it. So that's the only thing that I can say I feel supported at home, at least by it, because we do sometimes, when she's curious, she'll ask me weird questions, but then there's a limit. but but anyway, yeah, I did want to share this as experience for me as it relates to death, because I've always been kind of the person who doesn't like to be vulnerable about death, and it always hits me after the fact. But I had a really interesting challenge. I want to say my aunt passed away in May, the beginning of May, and I was completely broken over it, where I was just not able to get up, not able to move. My tears, I couldn't be the strong person for everyone in the moment, because I couldn't even be there for myself. I couldn't even get myself dressed that morning to go to the funeral. And so, why I said it was difficult for me, because not only I was affected by it on a human being experience, but on a spiritual realm, it was more gratifying, because I want to say hours later, after she passed away, she came to visit me just to let me know she was okay. So that part of it was very exciting, but at the same time, I was questioning my human being experience. because I was really emotional about it, but I didn't know what to do with my emotions. And so I did want to, kind of talk about that openly, because I don't think we do really deal with how death affects us emotionally, because we're afraid to be vulnerable in front of people. That vulnerability, when you're afraid to be vulnerable, and everyone talks about being attacked in vulnerability, so we don't like to share it. And so I'm just wanted to share my experience, let you guys know that I was vulnerable at that moment. I didn't know what to do, and it was the first time for me when death was so vulnerable for me and immediate, because I'm the leader or the strong person in the family, and I got to take care of everybody else first and then go to everybody else. So this particular situation had me question who I was, question myself. Why am I this vulnerable? You know, am I weak right now? And so if it wasn't for the support of Erica and my guides, is what we call spiritual guides, who help you kind of process things when you're on your spiritual journey. Um, if it wasn't for them telling me that I need to grieve, like I need to spend time to process this in the human being experience, then I wouldn't have known what to do. I wouldn't have known. And then Erica would say things like, it's okay that you don't know. It's okay that you don't know what to do right now. And so, if I didn't have that, wouldn't know how to move forward or how to even help other people with grieving, because I give people basically grieving counseling when I connect them with their loved ones, because they seek for these answers of, what do I do? How do I move forward? What happened? Like, why can't we be here in the physical form anymore, even when they pass away from a sickness? That's another thing that's tough for people. People don't really like to hear that it was their timing, because they seen them suffer so much, whether it was a traumatic experience or whether it was just them suffering from cancer. People do not want to hear that they chose to have this exit point in life. So it's difficult to have the conversation. It's difficult to talk about it. And what I do sometimes in my session is I allow the person to ask me the questions, so that I'm not putting them in more uncomfortableness when it's already uncomfortable conversation. I allow them to reach out to me. I allow them to ask me the questions, because they come to you for seeking answers to questions that they just don't understand.
Wow. That is a lot of emotion, just the transition of being there with a loved one, and feeling that exit point and having to do with all the emotion and not knowing if you're grieving right, or having family members kind of dictate what's okay, what are the ways that are okay to grieve. I know personally, my dad passed a year ago this month, and I thought for a lot of time of my life we did not have a very easy relationship on this earthly plane, like in this, lifetime. But as soon as he died, I was grieving over the dad that I never got a chance to know, because he was plagued with so much on in life emotionally. As a Black man who had undiagnosed mental health issues, he lashed out a lot. His anger was a part of him. But once he passed, he came to me in a dream, and he showed me where he was going to be. And it was like, I was like, who is that? That looks like my dad, but that doesn't feel like my dad. And he was just so happy, and he was with like this beautiful family. I can't even explain it, but he's so different on the other side that we're able to be a father-daughter duo now. So we're more connected than ever, because he was able to be himself, kind of take that weight off, because he was dealing with a lot that I still have no idea. And during the funeral, I was so angry. Like, I was mad at all the things that happened in this life, but not knowing that he's still healing on the other side. So I look at life, I look at death totally different. I think it's an access point, just a continuation. We all do it. I believe we do come back. I believe we still have access and can communicate with them. And can, send our love to them and just speak to them openly. So for me, grief is, it's definitely emotional, just understanding that the physical nature is no longer here. But like later on, where they're at, they're still there. They still love you. That love is never going to be disjointed. That love is never going to be disconnected. So when I talk about death, I'm actually elated because of the experience I had with my dad and still have with him, So I know it's kind of weird, but that's just how I'm grieving and how I'm viewing death right now, and the mental health aspect of it. Yeah.
Sorry. I just
Okay.
wanted to respond to two things. And one is Tashina, you were talking about Erica's support. And that is so powerful, in grief or in anything, to just be like, I may not understand this. I'm gonna ask you some questions, but I totally am here with you. Just to bear witness, and to be with to walk with someone through something that you are like, I don't totally get this, but I love you and I support you. And I just feel like within death and grief particularly, but within anything, to be able to do that, that's a beautiful thing. It's so powerful, how we sustain each other. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's so cool. And then the other thing is, I'm gonna be real open. When I think of death, I think of grief, right? Or I think it's tied to spirituality. And so I've been really thinking about this a lot since I met you guys, and just expanding my horizons, because this idea of mediumship and connecting with people after they're dead, whether it's through dreams or through someone who's a medium, is not something I've ever experienced. And I'm super curious and open to it. But it's totally out of my usual way of thinking. So the whole time we've been talking about all this with you guys, I love the spirituality part, but just for me, death has always been this thing that even within faith, where you might believe there's an afterlife, there's still grief. And I mean, that reflects my faith. I know that's not everyone's faith. I've been to homegoing services, and that's a really different experience. That's not in my community. We have something similar where you stop and everybody comes together before the actual funeral, right after the death, in my faith community, and just share stories and beautiful things. And it's really that moment to support each other and celebrate that person. But still, the structure of funerals and things like that is very much about that grief. And grief is hard. My aunt, one of my uncles died a year ago, February, and he had been sick and was declining for a long time. And my aunt, who was a school counselor and then was in charge of school counselors, so she's pretty attuned to herself emotionally. She just for the whole first year posted these. She's a beautiful writer. She posted these beautiful things just about where she was in her journey. I mean, long posts, but shared them with people. And I just thought it was so powerful, because that's what we don't do. And it makes you feel, on top of your grief, lonely. And it also makes it you're just grieving, and that's not true, because you're also busy living while you're missing the person, right? So it's not that you're just sad or just lost but it's so much more complicated. And her writing for me was just beautiful, because it broke out of that stigma, but also because it reflected all the different feelings and experiences. And even she met a new man about a year later, and she started to talk about and just to be able to be open, just for me, it was so eye-opening. I have never experienced anyone being so open about death and loss. And I just thought it was so powerful, because I know for me, I don't like to think about it, that death is a part of life. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I probably am a little bit afraid of it when I think about my own death or the people around me. I say, oh yeah, death is a part of life, but then I get real anxious about things that might take me out of my life, right? So I know I myself am not super comfortable with it. So this is something I know I need to dig in a little bit about. So I'm just really grateful for the listening and the learning right here. Because it's a hard one, because I definitely grew up where we didn't really talk about it. And my dad was raised Jewish, but converted when he married my mom, and I was raised in a Christian community, and it was something you were sad about, and you said farewell, and you went to heaven, and that's a nice thing. But that was kind of the structure of death, and you wanted to live as long as you could, and so yeah.
Death is always a challenging moment for me. If you guys didn't know, I lost my sister about 3 years ago. during Memorial Day, a couple days before my birthday. So like my birthday haven't been the same ever since I lost her. Um, but you know, being so just educating myself on the different types of ways to grieve because I didn't know that it was different types of ways to grieve because I'm the type of person that I will just put everything in a Pandora box and lock it away. Don't deal, go on with my day. Don't even cry. Don't even deal with the emotional part of it. But just staying in tune mentally, physically, and emotionally, and educating myself on it, um, and just being around people like Tashina, my mom, my family, and her kids, and just having that support um, was definitely a good thing. It was definitely a good thing. But it still was challenging. It was the first time that I ever lost somebody that was close to me. Um, I didn't really take other people's death as serious until it hit home. And when it hit home. Like it broke me completely down. Because I don't look at death in a bad way when it's somebody else. But when it hit me, I felt every bit of it. It was like a ton of bricks of like not only my sister death, but everybody death that I didn't put into a Pandora box. So it just kind of, I love this subject, by the way. It just kind of educate me on like seeing the difference between all of us, how we deal with death and how we take it on, to know that just because they crossed over don't mean that they're gone. Um, and it's a different type of bonding with them when they cross over versus them physically be here, because I learned more stuff about my sister now that she gone than when she was here. So it was definitely it's a good subject to touch on. So I'm excited.
Thank you, Erica, for sharing that. When you were talking, there were two quotes that came to mind that I really love in the context of death. One of them is that grief is really just love. It's all the love you want to give but cannot. All that unspent love gathers up in the corner of your eyes, the lump in your throat, and in the hollow part of your chest. Grief is just love with no place to go. That's by Jamie Anderson.
Oh, I love that.
And then
Wow.
there was another one that said, grief is like the ocean. It comes in waves, ebbing and flowing. Sometimes the water is calm, and sometimes it's overwhelming. All we can do is learn to swim. And both of those quotes really, like, I've experienced death in my life, but only one time have I experienced it where it was close enough for me to really be impacted. Kind of like what you said, Erica. Like, these people would pass, like both my grandparents on my dad's side, my grandfather on my mom's side, but I wasn't really connected to them in a way that I felt it immediately. It was like, oh, okay, this person is gone. I'm not going to get to see them again. Okay, that's sad. Everybody else is sad. I should probably be sad. Okay. But when I was in high school, my sophomore year of high school, one of the first people that I met when I moved to Florida from New Jersey, he lived three doors down from me. He was my next door neighbor. He died in a car accident on his 16th birthday. And it literally rocked my world unexpectedly, because he was 16. So it's not like I was preparing for this person to pass away. And like I said, all the people who had passed previously, there wasn't that connection. But like I said, this was the first person that I had met. Like, I literally was at his house almost every day, sitting on his front porch, talking with him about stupid stuff. I had seen him that morning as I was walking to the bus, and I think back to it, and I would think back to it over and over again after his passing. Like, I didn't even tell him happy birthday. I didn't even say anything to him when I passed him. I probably made some snarky face because he was with his girlfriend and I didn't like her. And I was just like, all these things that was going through my head afterwards. And it really, that quote about love, it really came to context. Like, this grief that I'm feeling is because I genuinely love this person, not like a romantic love, but he was my friend. Like, I genuinely loved him. And now all these feelings don't have anywhere to go. And I remember going to his funeral, and I don't even think my parents went with me now that I think about it. His funeral was at the church down the street from our house, and I remember walking to his funeral by myself and sitting in this big giant Catholic church, and I'm thinking, I don't know what the heck is going on right now because I'm not Catholic and this is super intense. And everybody's crying, and I was that person that like kind of like what Tashina said, I can't let my feelings show. I have to hold it all together. So everybody else is crying. I need to be the strong person right now. And so I just sat there confused as ever, like, okay, keep it together, keeping it together. Okay, cool. And I remember going home and just crying my eyes out and feeling like there was nobody in the world that I could talk to about this pain because nobody would understand it. Like, I remember not talking to my parents really about it. I remember the day that he passed, I still had to like do my chores. So I'm like walking my dog, bawling like a baby, walking down the street, just crying. Like, and I'm like, what is happening right now? And it was so foreign to me because it was like I said, I grew up in this household where if it wasn't anger, we didn't talk about emotions. We didn't show emotions. And even when you did show anger, you were in trouble for it. So for all these emotions to come overflowing out, it was just like, what do I do with all of this stuff? And for me, I ran from it. I ran from religion. I ran from my friends. I ran from my family. I just completely was like, bye. I can't do this with you guys. I don't have the space, the mental, I don't have it. And for the longest time, I was just in complete rebellion because I had these feelings that I couldn't process because I didn't know how to. I think they had a grief counselor come to school, but I was like, what do I look like going to school to talk to a grief counselor? I can't do that. And now being an adult, being in the social work field, I look back on that and I'm like, man, I needed so many hugs amongst other things. But, the fact that I went through that experience and the loneliness that I was feeling, and it was just like, I can only imagine how people feel when they lose their parents or they lose a spouse or they lose a sibling or that love, it has nowhere to go. And so now when I talk to people, I have clients whose family members pass and I have to talk with them about the emotional aspects of it. And one of the biggest things that I tell them when I'm talking with them is, okay, now that this person is gone, now that you still have these emotions, what can you do constructively with these emotions? How can you take these emotions and don't just bottle them up, but use them constructively, to show your love for this person, whether that's doing a video or journaling or writing a poem or, doing a PowerPoint presentation with all their pictures on it or whatever, collaging, whatever it is, doing something with those feelings so that they have some place to go and they're not just sitting and marinating in your mind or in your heart or wherever. And that was the biggest thing for me in experiencing passing. Like, what are you going to do with all of these emotions? So that's just my 2 cents.
That's a great question, though.
Okay, since we're going to talk about this uncomfortable conversation. Okay, so what I think about death is it's a part of life. I guess I deal with death in a different way. I've actually had some traumatizing situations happen. I'm like Erica. I remember, like I said, my mom died on me. And she was one of those where she was my rock or whatever. So I was mad. I was mad as hell. Excuse me. I was mad because I felt like she left me in a state. And of course, she prepared us mentally, or whatever, but I was still mad at her. And I never forget, like I said, when she left, she died on Christmas or whatever. And so I tell everybody this story because this is how I remember it. I was pregnant with my 3rd child and my mom had cancer and she was in the home. We brought my mom home and we took care of her. We took turns. And at that time, all stuff was going on. And I never forget the last word she said was, "That heifer pregnant." And she was talking about me. and her health declined, and I was pregnant with my third son. But I didn't know, and did nobody else know, because my aunt had asked me. She was like, "Yeah, why are you sleeping?" Because she had the hospital bed and I was in the chair, and my mom said her health was pregnant, and she rolled over and she didn't say anything else. But after that, I had a son, and she died, and because I remember, she made the sound of death, as they called it, and she was like, I would, I never forget it because I have it in my head, and I was like, and I say, Evelyn, I was like, stop, because I got to get up and run a Walmart and change Thomas' bike out because it's too little. And I never forget it. And she was making that sound. She was making that gurgling sound. And I was on the phone with my best friend, and her mom had just passed, like maybe 3 or 4 years before mine. Miss Sloan passed in 99. My mom passed in 2003. And she was on the phone and she heard it, and then she just got silent. And I was like, Maish, mama down here, she making these noises. I can't sleep. I was uncomfortable. I was pregnant, all that. And she ain't say nothing to me. She ain't say nothing. And a couple of minutes after that, she grasped for her last breath. She was like, she stopped, and then she said, and that was it. And they brought out the house or whatever. And my best friend looking at me, and she was like, "You okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, I didn't know at the time that I was grieving or I was hurting. And she was like, "You okay?" And I was like, "I guess," and she was like, "Well, everybody, my sister hooping and hollering, and I never really seen my dad cry. He went in his room, he shut the door, he started, and it was like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong with you?" Because y'all, I tell you, they thought I was on drugs or something, because I'm walking around a funeral home. Hey, how y'all doing? Because I haven't seen these people in a long time or whatever. They had, y'all gonna laugh at, they had this guy named Jabo. He was toothless, but he could sing his ass off. And they had him, and I'm sitting up there singing with him and all the other good, great stuff. And I remember after that, like between 2004 and 2005, my life crumbled. And what I mean by crumbled, like I acted out in anger. I was like, I will fight. And on top of that, I was in an abusive relationship, just everything, like it just crumbled. And for me, I didn't know how to process it at the time. And like I say, I am a crybaby. And I do as I got older, but you would never see me cry in front of anybody. I will go cry. And I still do. I have a tendency to do it now, because what happens is, around, if you go on my Facebook, I post it. But around this time, my dad go clean off my mom's funeral, the grave and all this, and I'll go exit, and I'll go like just but yeah, we don't, you don't know how to deal with it at the time until you look back at it. To me, I know she's probably in a better place, and I know she's out of pain and all that, but at the same time, it hasn't been a good spiritual experience for me. I don't look at death as a a relieving thing. I look at it as even though you take away, even though I know you're here in my heart or my mind or surrounding me or whatever, you still took a chunk of me, physically. So I don't fool with it. I don't deal with it. I don't see nothing else about it, because everyone that has died close to me, because I have lost close people, talking to someone on the phone, and you trying to get to him, and he was like, bye, and he killed himself, like, so you tell me what good is that? What, there's no, there's nothing really to discuss about it. It don't, to me, it does relate to your mental health, but how does it invoke change? Because I'm not going to change the way I feel about death. I don't think it's, I understand the aspect and the spiritual part of it, but all it has caused me death is pain. So I don't see it no other way. So yeah,
Can I ask you a
that's it.
question, Ebony? Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't respond. So I was like,
Yeah,
can you
I
hear me?
said, yeah, I can
Okay,
hear.
okay. Um, so you mentioned that all death has caused you is pain. What do you do with that?
Elaborate a little bit. What do you mean? What I do with my pain?
Yes.
Um, I deal with it. I learned how to deal with it in certain ways. At one point in time, I was journaling, but it still didn't take away that pain. What did I do with that energy? As if that's what you asking, I've tried all things under the earth, and it still doesn't take away that pain. It doesn't numb the pain. It doesn't do anything for me, even though I know that my mom's probably in a better place because she had cancer. I know that. But on the same end, death came. Well, I ain't gonna say death came. I'm gonna say everything with that came. And he took I'm gonna say death, and I'm gonna talk in third party. Death came and took a, um, a 23-year-old person. You know what I'm saying? He didn't even get to live his life. So, like I just can't see it no other way. It's always death is all when I see death, I'm gonna affiliate it with pain because that's all I have seen with it. Like you, I have tried to channel my anxiety, my energy, if you see my voice is crackling because I'm a thug. I don't cry. But I get mad every time I talk about it because it doesn't matter what I do. I've laid, as I call it, if you hear me saying laying on a couch, I've laid on plenty of couches, but that still does not take away that pain that piece of death caused me. Um, so that is nothing is for me, and I've tried to work on it. Okay, Jen, I'm sorry. It for me, um, it does not help me in any form, way, or fashion. All I feel is pain, hurt. That's all I feel when it comes to death. That I haven't had no, don't you know how you get they're in a better place, they ain't suffering no more, they this, they that, you know, when you when you're trying to deal with it, that kind of goes out the window. I don't even, in all honesty, I think as I got older, I don't even watch the news like that because I get anxiety, all these killings and black
Mm.
guys, so when you talk about that, I mean, if you really want to get deep into it, I mean, ain't we ain't got wait, what do you do? What do you do with that? What can you do with that? Nothing. I mean, don't nobody want to write no piece of paper or go journal or go nothing. No, no. My son is laying on the street. You finna go tell me to go write in a journal? You about to get your face punched in. Really? Come on now. So I mean, we talk about it, but let's be realistic about it too. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why, I mean, yeah, when people was like, oh, your mom in a better place, blah blah blah, even though I was on a high horse or whatever you want to call it, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that. And I'm the type, I'm really the type, if somebody, I'm sorry for you, don't say nothing to me at all. Don't say nothing to me at all. I don't want to hear that. You understand? I don't want to hear that. So yeah, that's it.
I definitely get it, Ebony. Like, I felt that anger. That was like the worst thing that people could ever say. Are you okay? Or, you know, just triggering things that, like, I just lost my sister. I don't want to, that's not what I want to hear. And I know it's not a good type of anger, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, as soon as somebody lose their life, that
Just
That's
don't
not,
even
it's not a
say
good, yeah,
anything.
yeah, just sit there, it is not, it's not that you're being mean.
Yeah,
That's just the what you want to, the I don't want to call it the surroundings, but that's just how it is. I
I
mean,
mean, that's the
I
emotion.
do think it.
It show natural emotions attached to it being that someone
Right,
has been taken away from you, and that's a good. That's what you're supposed to feel. You're supposed to feel.
right,
You're supposed to be mad. You're supposed to be upset. You're supposed to be angry. You're supposed to cry. You're supposed to feel whatever you need to feel to get yourself
Mhm.
wherever. And people saying those things didn't provide comfort to you when they expressed that to you. That's basically what was happening or is happening. I mean, I've been right there with Erica while she went through it. Just like she said, nothing that anybody could say to her at that moment provided comfort. Not even me. So all I did just was sit there and let her be mad or let her be
Right.
upset, let her do go through that motions because everyone has their own way or own timing of dealing with death. And you were right to feel angry, to feel like someone has been snatched away because they have been. They have
Right.
been literally taken out of your life. Like
right,
you didn't get permission or sign up for this person to be taken away from you in that aspect. You had no no control of that. So yeah, it's okay that you feel that way. It's okay that you're mad. It's okay that you feel like someone was snatched from you because guess what? That person was taken from you. That person was taken out of your life in whatever aspect that was. So you don't have to feel that you did something wrong because there's no such
Right.
thing as right or wrong when it comes to death or grieving. Like everyone has their own timing on grieving. Everybody has their own way to deal with death. Like no one
Right.
is been given this actual rule book on death. Like it didn't come with a manual. It didn't
Right.
come with an instruction manual. It didn't come with anything like that. Yes, other people reach a different level with death. When you go to that level of spirituality, yes, everyone reaches their own level of comfort when they get there on their own timing. But yes, everything happens in their own timing, and there's nothing anyone else can do about your own personal dealings with death. Like everyone deals with death in their own timing, and it's okay on every level that you decide to deal with death. Like to be honest, it doesn't really matter that how I handle it and how someone else handle it. It really just matters how you handle it and how
yeah,
you deal with it. And you got to be the one that's okay with how you handle death. That's all that matters really is I mean, to be honest with you, like Erica said, she did was not good. And I just watched her not be good. And I watched her be in pain and know it was not good for me to watch her be in pain. But I sat there, I watched her, I held her hand, or if she didn't want me to deal or she didn't want to be around me, I just stayed in the other room until she got through it and she was ready to come out and play. So it's just it's everyone deals with it differently. So don't be hard on yourself about how you deal with death. That's your choice. You have
Right.
every right to feel how you want to feel about death. Love you, Ebony.
yes. But I mean,
Mike.
people get so uncomfortable, right? Like people to wade into your discomfort with you. People don't want to do that. They want you to feel better for them, right? So what's
Right. That
so
part.
powerful? I'm going to be with you and watch you in pain. And people, it's so hard. It's like the true definition of empathy, right? But that gets real twisted up in grief. That's like, I'm so sorry. Well, I don't want you to be sorry. I want you to be here with me and make it okay for me to feel angry or feel sad, to step outside of your like anxiety about how I feel and let me feel what I feel. Because Tashina's right. It's all,
Yeah.
but we get all these messages that it's not, implicitly, all those things like hurry on through your grief so I can be okay, you know,
Right.
your grief. And it's hard. It's a powerful thing to be able to like just be with someone, in that. It would probably really change the way you feel about grief and death if someone can do that for you. Sorry, I just, yeah.
Oh no, no problem. I get a lot of. That's why I get a lot of. I'm of course Jordan told me this, but I'm a giver. I'm there for you 110. And a lot of people have noticed that. And like I say, I'm not. That's just me. That's just my human nature. But when me I don't know. Okay, so basically, I don't know how to ask for help. I'm learning. Let me say that I am learning, but I don't know how to ask for help. So it's a struggle in all way, form, and fashion. But I know how to be there for you. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay,
Mhm.
that's all.
Mhm.
I want to
That
say,
Mike.
totally makes sense. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
something. Ebony, how you feel? That is how
Hmm.
every black man feels every time, every day, whether somebody's alive or dead. Processing their emotions is not something we do, and it's not something that, like you said, you don't cry because you a thug. And for us, that is what we've been told to since birth, since we come out. You don't cry. You handle that shit. Like you said, when your dad
Language.
lost your mom, I'm sorry, when he lost when your mom passed, he went into his room and he closed his door. So that right there in
Right.
itself is like the thing that we need to get away from as a whole. And I totally understand that because me and my brother, we process our mother's passing completely different. And we grew up in a household where there is no the words "I love you." There is no there is no hugging. There is no form of affection. The boys, we don't get that. So now being as grown men, receiving that from other people is difficult for us. And it's, I mean, we process it. It's difficult for us. We don't accept it fully, and it plays a role. Like my mom was everything, and her last words to me, she died of a brain tumor. Her last words to me was she hated me. Now,
Mhm.
I could take that I could take that however it was, but those was the last words she said to me, and then I didn't see her for 2 weeks, and then she died. I got woken up by my brother-in-law kicking in the door saying, "Hey, wake up, your mama died." That's it.
Mhm.
So, in that in that situation, how you feel, man, I understand. That's 100%. That's how we do it every day. And that is the struggle for all of us, but I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. That's the struggle for a black man 24/7. Because if he's trying to survive and provide, he also got to worry about catching a bullet from his people and from people outside of that. And then when you want to be when like there is no room for us to basically be open and vulnerable in that sense. And it's a big contributor to the toxic masculinity that we all portray, and men and that's a lot for men as well, from all ethnic groups as well, where they can't do that. We may die faster because of it, because we're keeping that stuff bottled up because we need to be strong.
Mhm.
We cannot show any form of weakness in tears.
Yeah.
And tears are a form of weakness. Crying is a form of weakness. And so we have to basically bottle that up, keep it in. And to this, like I'm saying, I'm 38 years old. I still ain't even grieved properly of my mother's death. And I was 18 when she died. Me and my brother don't even like it's like we don't even like to say I love you to each other is uncomfortable. It's weird. It doesn't feel right. And saying it to like and that's my brother, that's my flesh. And so it's like it's hard. It's very hard. And in the whole attributes of death and actually like wanting to grieve properly, it's like you can never fully grieve properly because it like Ebony said, there ain't no textbook on about it. I mean, there is these, they say, the so-called 7 stages and all that crap, but in actuality, who is that applying to?
Mm.
Because
Right.
I'm 38, I still can't even cry doing a movie or even a song about it. I'm questioning my manhood. And
That's
that's the sense of me being vulnerable, and it's frightening, it's scary, it's exhausting, extremely exhausting,
Mm.
and it's difficult to deal with. And yeah, I totally get it. The whole death thing is never a fun topic for any of us. Nothing that we like to do, nothing that we enjoy doing, because it is just hurt. It's just a cascade ball, a tsunami, a typhoon of just hurt. And some of us process it, some of us still don't. And I'm one of them people that still haven't processed it properly. And countless of other people. Jordan. I know you know of one of our associates from high school. Um, I think last year, no, the year before last, 2018, December 24th, she was shot and killed by her husband, and the people that reported her death were her children when they walked
I
in.
did not hear about that.
Yeah, you remember Debo?
Yeah.
His sister was that
Wow.
person. Yeah, made it on the news and everything. Like, how do you like? And we're talking about grief and everything, but then how do you explain that to a child that your dad killed you
Right.
and you pretty much walk in there and she's in a pool of blood? That's it, and that's on Christmas. So the day that is a joyous moment for everybody on Earth, well, in
Right.
America, is a day that is a reminder to them for the rest of their days that their
Right.
father took their mother from them.
Mm.
Like, the touch bases on the my mind goes into like a complete tailspin of like what are they going through in that
Right.
sense? What is it that they're gonna basically, how are they gonna be able to process that? And I ask myself that, and I think of it. I try to come up with ways and think about it, but it is no way, no how that anybody could fully process that as an adult, let alone a child.
Right.
Yeah.
Coming in, walking in on your mother just on the floor. That's it. And knowing that your dad did it because he was an abusive person, and his abuse turned to death, and that's
Mm.
just mind-boggling. And then you know what I mean, like we deal with it on a constant basis and everything else. It's trippy. I remember when I was a kid, I felt the loss of my mother when I was 18, when I was 6. She was very much alive, but that same pain became a feeling of deja vu for me when I was 18. Because at 18, I felt I was like, this feeling feels familiar to me. And I remember waking up crying as a kid, thinking my mother had passed away, and she did not. But that same feeling resurfaced when I was 18 when she died. So it is a big trauma in the whole grieving process with death. I mean, passing over, I get it. Like I'm more of a, I'd probably say a spiritual person into it, where beginning and beginning, that kind of thing. But transfer souls and all that jazz. But it still plays a it still plays a hole. It still leaves a big gaping hole in the rest of the people that are behind, that have to continue life going on, knowing that the person that you used to see, talk to, is gone.
Right. It's not there anymore. Yeah.
I mean, like as we're talking about it, this is the one thing that I don't think any of us can actually say anything remotely positive or helpful to anybody out there in the world. I mean, we could talk about it, but let's just be real. There probably won't be a definitive answer to pretty much help soothe or come to ease on things like that. Because like being a parent, losing a child, the worst pain a parent can ever feel is losing a child. And no, none of us here, thank God, but we've probably seen, heard people that have been in that situation. In the process, that marriages get destroyed over that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in the process, things like that is like, yo, it's really tough. It's really tough. It's not for the faint of heart, and it is a test of your character, and it is a test of your strength. But it is one that is going to be paved in a great deal of sorrow and pain. And for us to pretty much try to like it's we're talking about it, but then it's like, as we're talking about it, are we coming up with ways to uh, come up with a answer or newfound solution to ease and coast everyone in the world with it? Because like I'm doing this, and I'm actually thinking about it myself, and I can't really come up with anything because it is one
It
nasty.
is. It is. It is. I have to agree with you on that, Mike, because we can talk about it all day, but I don't think my perspective of death is gonna change the way I feel about it, or the way I'm gonna put it. I'm a I'm gonna try to be positive, but ain't no way to be a positive. It in my eyes, just my personal perspective. Ain't no way to be positive about death at all. What we being positive for?
Yeah,
Ain't nothing to be positive for.
and you're right. And it's like to me, I'm like thinking like when Tashina and we're all talking about like, oh, when it does happen, you're saying, "Are you okay? I'm sorry for your loss." Like we don't like. I hear you. I appreciate it. I say it because that's like society's knee jerk reaction to do. But
Right.
is it really though?
Right.
Because I was dating somebody and her mother passed away on during her mother passed away while she was with me, and like she didn't like it wasn't something that she expected to happen. It was just that she went home, she left her kids with her mom, and then she went home to go check up on her mom, and stiff as a board. That's it. Like thank God her kids didn't see her, but
Hmm.
that was it.
I honestly definitely want to give both you and Ebony like a surrounding of a hugging, like an energetic hug, because thank you for just showcasing all of your authentic pain and your journey through death, and like just surrounding it, like, and taking it on and being honest about how you feel. I Mike, to go back to your question about the positivity of death in any scenario. um I recently, my daughter had a very fatal fall. It was really, really scary. She fell out of a window onto her head, and I found her in the driveway, and I was looking in her eyes, and she didn't look like she was gonna hang on. And knowing what I know about death and the perception I have about it, I was telling her, looking at her and telling her if she needs to go, I understand, because I was honored to be her mother in this lifetime, and I was honored to get to connect with her soul. But if, it's her soul's mission that it's time for her to go, that she would be in peace. And she kind of looked at me, and I kind of slowly, just tried to be there for her and hold her tight, just so she knows that her mom loves her, and that, even if she goes, mommy's still gonna love her throughout many lifetimes. And a miracle happened, and she did not pass. It was not her time to go. So, like, just with keeping in mind that, I guess, this is my own perspective of life. How I got here, I don't know. I've always been fascinated by death. But just making peace and knowing that she knows that regardless of where she goes, death, life, that I'm always here and that love will never be severed, was comforting. I would uh, I would assume it was comforting to her, but I know not everybody can experience that one-on-one connection with it. But just knowing that love, how they died, how that tragedy happened, you know, um, the love will always, the memories will always live on, and just hopefully surround people with peace. But yeah, like, that's the only way I could think of to help someone just know that. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore because I'm just rambling. But yeah, I got a little emotional there. But yeah.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you
ramble and your
so
emotion.
much. Yes. Thank you
Yeah.
all, really. I hate to cut the conversation off, but as our time comes to a close, but I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody for sharing, and thank you for allowing us just a little piece of your heart, like allowing us just a little bit into your heart. Because I know that this conversation isn't easy. I know that this conversation is uncomfortable. And that's why we're having this conversation, because in my mind, I'm hoping that if we can sit and we can talk about it, then other people will have the courage to sit and talk about it, and not just talk about it, but to, like Tashina had mentioned, being able to feel those feelings. There isn't a pamphlet for grief. There isn't a one size fits all solution. We don't have an answer to how to grieve appropriately, because there isn't one. Everybody does it differently. Like Ebony talked about, some people laugh their way through grief, some people are angry through grief, some people cry, some people completely disconnect. Whatever it is that you're doing, allow yourself to feel those feelings. Allow yourself to know that those feelings are okay. And I just hope that this has been an avenue for a safe space to feel those feelings, um, to express those feelings. And so, with that being said, final thoughts, Tashina?
Ooh, tough act to follow, Jordan. But this is my final thought. Um, I feel very, very passionate about making sure we all know that it's okay to express your feelings. Um, like Ebony said, she's at a place where there's nothing that you can say to change her perspective. But I feel like just a little bit did to let her know that it's okay that she feels that way. I felt that
Right.
was a little bit of change. And for those who are out there watching this, I mean, we're not professionals. We're only just expressing our true emotions and feelings about what we feel about death. So, yeah, I challenge those people out there who are watching us to have these uncomfortable conversations, to give us feedback on your thoughts, your opinions, your emotions.
Yes.
Embrace our safe space. I also challenge those people who do have the credentials out there about when it comes to death to come holler at us, give us your feedback, connect with each and every one of us about this topic, because I feel like that right there is going to help each and every one of us embrace what we're feeling when it comes to death and mental health. And I'm grateful for this platform to be around such six beautiful people who want to be uncomfortable to have this conversation. So maybe there's another six beautiful people in your life to be around to talk about this, because I feel like this is creating some type of change. It may not be the change that you're expecting to get, but I feel the change happening in this conversation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Can I hop
Thank
on
you.
real quick?
Yes.
Beautiful, because I have to run. I apologize, but I really just want to hop on because I was along the lines of what you were saying, Tashina. This is how we do this, right? Like, I'm a ripples person. Like, it starts with me and it ripples out. It starts with us. And you probably get tired of hearing that, but that's like my firm belief. And like, if we can provide this like space for ourselves and for each other that we have in this conversation, if we can go out in the world and try to give other people that space, those different messages, the things we haven't gotten, right? That space to just feel all of our feelings, that space to just sit with it with someone else instead of trying to fix it. If we can do that for even one or two people and for ourselves, really, can we do that for ourselves? That's how we create change, like a little bit at a time, right? And so I'm grateful for this, because I don't know, it's just such a gift. And I think we all have that ability to go out and create that change in that way. So thank you guys. And I am gonna hop off because I gotta get ready for a flight. But thank you guys.
Thank you, Jen.
Love you, Jen.
Love you guys too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Mike, your final thoughts.
Final thought uh in retrospect to the whole topic of the day, grieving is a necessity of life,
Yeah.
and we can't avoid it. And but knowing that, we just have to act accordingly to it. Prepare yourself, brace yourself for it. Cling on to some sort. And when I mean cling on, I don't mean like latch on, like like for dear life or just something and never let go. But just like the people you got as your shoulders, your ride or diers, and people you could talk to, you feel safe with it. You know what I mean? Help in those kind of moments, because they are the ones that are pretty much, you may not want to hear what they got to say, because everybody's words is going to be I'm sorry or feel bad, but it's all coming from a good place. Just you know process it and just tell them exactly what you want. Effectively communicate that. If you want them to shut up, ask them to shut up. If you want them to basically be left alone, communicate that. But just remember, you probably got people, and if you don't got people, feel free to hit us up. That's all.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Mike. Kirsty?
My final thoughts are continuing to work on the relationship and perception you have about death. For myself, I feel like I continue to make peace with it because it's inevitable. And the more and more I find tools and ways to just kind of work within it, the easier for me I think it'll continue to be. Because yes, it is painful. But there's also, in my perspective, there's also beauty there, because death is like, it's just a transfer of energy. You're going somewhere else that you're not. And I know that has a lot to do with my spiritual beliefs and stuff like that. But yeah, just continue to I continue to make peace with death, even though it's very uncomfortable. And I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, so that might be why I'm able to access this point of making peace with death. Sorry, astrology. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kirsty. Erica?
Just take it one day at a time. I know
Yeah.
everything isn't going to change overnight, but just taking, your baby steps towards being happy, that you was blessed enough to even spend that time with your loved
Yeah.
ones and see the beautiful personality and the beautiful butterfly that they then develop too. Um, it's no time limit on grieving.
Yeah.
You ain't got to put yourself on a time clock on
Yes.
grieving. You can go 5 years, 12 years, 20 years, however long it take you for you to get to that little part of happiness. It ain't got to be much, but just that little part of satisfaction of being happy to say that, I'm glad that I spent that time with that loved one or that
Yeah.
friend or that associate or, that young child. So, yeah, that's my
Yeah.
takeaway.
Thank you, Erica. Ebony, that bass though.
I'm listening. My takeaway from it is make peace with it. Will I do it? Probably not. Um, um, like I say, it's a work in progress for me. I just, like I say, this is one of those uncomfortable conversations. Don't you know how you just probably not gonna change my mind about this one. Probably, and it's not. I know people talk about the saying, some people stay grieving, or some people want to stay in pain for attention and stuff like that. You'll never know when I'm grieving. So, and that's something else I'm trying to work on. No, I'm not. I'm even gonna tell you the story, but death is this is something that I probably would never be able to adjust to, even though I know it's a part of life. It'll probably nothing ever get used to. I love you, Christy. I do. I love every bone in your body, but I do not find death beautiful at all. It's
I
the
love you
ugliest
too,
thing
Ebony.
it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Um, so like I say, I am a work in progress. Like once again, I was, one of those raised in a church, whatever. But when I seen it and it affect me because I've seen people die, I look at it so much different now. So, like I said, I got a lot of work to do. But right now, I'm stuck. So, what I take away from it, I support all of you, and I'm grateful for all of you and your aspects of it, and your honesty. So that's what I take away from it. Y'all being here, our group. That's what I take away from it. So, oh yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of you for just being in this space today and really being vulnerable and being open. I truly appreciate and love each and every one of you. That is our time for today, but just because our time is up doesn't mean the conversation has to end. Let's keep the comments going. in the comment section below. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on death and mental health and processing emotions and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for leaning in with us. And until next time, bye.
Bye.